That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, the reason we are making this video, in complete honesty, is because I'm a little lazy here, and we've been making so many additional podcasts every single day over there on Patreon, where I'm breaking down anywhere from 3 to 5 teams every single day and uploading them as additional podcasts. So I figured, let's try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. Let's throw some of these on the YouTube channel. That way we can still continue to break down teams for new members over there on Patreon of the flock. And then at the same time, we can be getting a YouTube video out, which should be very entertaining and also informative on what you should be doing with your own Dynasty teams based on understanding your league settings, based on understanding how to maximize what you should be doing in your starting lineup and your bench in accordance with those league settings. So yeah, here we are going to be covering 3 different teams with 3 different league formats. But of course, before we get into it, drop a like, leave a comment letting me know what you would do with these teams as well, and subscribe to the channel if you have not for whatever reason. I mean, we are continuing to be the fastest growing Dynasty Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. So thank you so much for everyone supporting the show. And of course, thank you so much for everybody supporting the show over there on Patreon as well. And yeah, I will say, June 19th, 6 p.m., Jester King Brewery, the Flock official meetup for Texas in Austin before I leave to Florida. So if you enjoy Dynasty, if you enjoy this channel, please make sure you come because I want to meet you before I move. But that's it. Let's dive into it. Let's bring up PJ's team here. Okay, so PJ recently joined the flock, and man, thank you so much for supporting the show. And here, the league settings are going to be pretty standard. It's going to be a half PPR format. It's going to be a 6-point passing touchdown league. Now, he did take this team over as an orphan 2 years ago, so he said he's dramatically changed the roster from when he took it over. But regardless, let me discuss what we are going to be doing with 6-point passing touchdown versus 4-point passing touchdown in a 1-quarterback league. Now, we've already said this so many times over there on Patreon, so I'm sure that a lot of people are annoyed with me saying this so far, but just in case you haven't heard it, when you're evaluating a 1-quarterback 6-point passing touchdown league, it's not necessarily going to drastically change the value of the quarterback position. Rather, it's going to change the profile of the quarterback that you should be targeting within the position, and it's going to make those guys that are relying a little bit more on rushing, the players that I love in a regular league, the players that I love in a 4-point passing touchdown league, a Lamar Jackson, a Jalen Hurts, a Kyler Murray, a Trey Lance. I mean, those players are at a premium when their rushing is going to make up the majority of the difference that they are seeing from the quarterback 24 in fantasy to putting themselves up as the quarterback 2, the quarterback 3, whatever they're going to be this upcoming season. Well, when you make it a 6-point passing touchdown league, those pocket passing quarterbacks, a guy like a Matthew Stafford, a guy like a Tom Brady, those quarterbacks that aren't necessarily racking up those points on the ground, they now have the potential to go through and actually bridge that gap between the rushing quarterbacks and the pocket passers. So I will say that going forward, maybe in those flock Patreon Dynasty leagues, it's going to be something I look to do and try to get more of those as 6-point passing touchdowns. We are going to have more startups this offseason. That can be something we play around with because I think it definitely makes the quarterback evaluations in Dynasty a little bit more interesting when you don't just have to sit there and go, give me the rushing quarterback, give me Trey Lance, give me Jalen Hurts, give me Kyler Murray over and over and over again. Now, if we were looking at the starting lineup requirements, you need to start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So nothing too crazy here in what we are deviating from normal values. So don't want to spend too much time on that. But let's go position by position here, and let's really break down this team. So if we pull up the quarterback position, here you have Matthew Stafford, Trey Lance, and Tom Brady. So this is very funny. I swear to God, I did not do this on purpose, but 2 of those guys that we mentioned as getting bumps up given the 6-point passing touchdown format instead of a 4-point passing touchdown league, they are going to be Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. I like having both players at a supposed discount, understanding that this format's definitely going to help them. And guys, trust me, you know that I am someone that is all in on Trey Lance. I mean, I recently took Trey Lance at the top of the 2nd round in our most recent Flock Patreon startup. But in this format, I think when you have a Matthew Stafford, if we can go through and we can try to move Trey Lance in a package to get an upgrade at another position, that's going to be something I'm looking to do. And of course, you're going to be looking for a quarterback in return, a guy that I would really like in this format in return. And keep in mind, you're getting another piece on top, but it would be someone like a Baker Mayfield, someone that you know is not going to necessarily be averaging 30 rushing yards a game, which would make him very valuable in a 4-point passing touchdown league. But maybe you eventually see the passing volume be there and it can outweigh that loss in rushing production. So with the Trey Lance, while definitely love him in the majority of formats, this is going to be the one case where I would be looking to go through and sell him and try to get a quarterback that's a little less valuable in fantasy back and then get a little bit more on return. But that's it. We've talked about the quarterback position enough for this league. Let's go over to running back real quick and let's pull up DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, James White, Darrell Williams. I'm sorry, that's Damian Williams, Tariq Cohen. So here really you have those two guys at the very top in DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams, both players that profile to be guys that you're going to be able to start for the next 4 to 5 years. I know that DeAndre Swift has had a significant amount of hate as of late in Dynasty, but I mean, this is a player that we've been excited about. This is someone that you look at him and he is an Alvin Kamara. He's an Aaron Jones. He is a Travis Etienne. He's someone that's going to be getting every target out of that backfield, and he's also going to be getting the usage in the red zone. So even if he is losing carries between the 20s, it really doesn't matter because those carries, those touches aren't going to be that valuable to begin with. So yeah, DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, both of these players we have recently talked about in depth. I don't want to focus in too much on either guy right now, but we can say that they are cornerstone assets. And here you really don't have the depth at the running back position. So possibly when you're looking to trade a Trey Lance for a Baker Mayfield plus another guy, there you could be getting another running back, even if it's not someone of a premium, because this is a one quarterback league. So of course you're not going to be expecting a significant producer back for Trey Lance. But if you could get someone with upside like a Tony Pollard, that would be intriguing, understanding that if things break right, you all of a sudden have someone that you could confidently play in one of the flex spots or as your running back too if Javonte Williams starts a little slow. But yeah, I think that's the play here. Try to pick up a little bit more depth at running back by moving a Trey Lance and getting a lesser quarterback in return and another running back on top of that. Now we go over to the wide receiver position here. And here you have a couple young guys. And like you said, this is a spot where you were trying to make sure that you go through and overhaul a rebuilding team. So if we pull this up, you have Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Laviska Shenault all to build around. So all these wide receivers, extremely young. I am worried a little bit about Juju Smith-Schuster and that he does not have that long-term contract. But man, I am sitting with Juju on so many of my own Dynasty rosters, as a lot of people in the flock are, because I was adamant that Juju was the best value in Dynasty drafts last year. And my God, I was hilariously wrong. There's nothing that we can do to run from that. But from here, you still look at his age. You still look at that historic age-adjusted production that he had at the beginning of his NFL career. And you just kind of pray that the talent comes back, that he starts to focus in on football again. But regardless, Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault. So it looks like this team, to be completely honest, may not necessarily be built to win right away. So when we were discussing picking up that extra running back earlier, instead of getting a Tony Pollard, maybe instead you go for a guy that you think is a nice prospect, has some upside down the line, but doesn't have a role immediately. Someone like an A.J. Dillon could be a little bit more intriguing for this format. Now we go through the rest of the roster. A Hollywood Brown, someone on the bench that I'm definitely going to want to be holding on to given his loss in value. We've already talked about Hollywood being someone that you never wanted to have a 25% team target share anyway. So bringing in Rashad Bateman, in my opinion, doesn't drop him down nearly as much as a lot of other people think. Then you also have Brian Edwards and Tutu Atwell on the bench. So a couple players that have some intriguing upside. Mainly here, I think we are just going to be waiting it out to see what happens with Courtland Sutton, possibly leaving Denver. Maybe you get a quarterback upgrade in Denver, and all of a sudden, Jerry Jeudy is worth significantly more. So I don't want to be making too many changes at wide receiver here. I like your young core. And the last position we are going to be bringing up is going to be tight end, where you have Dallas Goedert, someone that way back after his rookie season, when people wanted to promote him as a top 5 tight end in Dynasty, we were looking at that and laughing, given the fact that Zach Ertz was still in his quote unquote prime and he was going to be in Philadelphia for a couple more years. And we were going, no, don't pay up and don't pay the premium for Dallas Goedert. Instead, just wait a few years and buy him when Zach Ertz is on the way out. Now, I thought that we were going to have to be paying a premium once Zach Ertz was leaving, but somehow, all of a sudden, it looks like Zach Ertz is most likely getting traded out of Philadelphia, and Dallas Goedert is cheaper in Dynasty now than he has been over the past 3 seasons. So I love having Dallas Goedert, and if you go across a ton of different Flock Patreon leagues, you're going to see Foster Monroe, a guy that you also have rostered here, is a tight end that I am rostering almost across all my bench spots, just given the fact that you're looking at him as a prospect that was exciting coming in. And obviously, he's playing behind Darren Waller, but if he ever got a different situation where he could get thrusted into a starting role, I think Foster Monroe could be someone you're excited about. But in general, I mean, this is a great way to go through and try to address a team that was a rebuilding team 2 years ago when you took over an orphan. You go through, you get a nice wide receiver core. You have that running back talent at the very top. Like we said, I think you need a little bit more running back depth there. But at quarterback, I think the move to make is trade away a quarterback that we love in Trey Lance, given the fact that this is a 6-point passing touchdown league, possibly get a Baker Mayfield and an A.J. Dillon back in return. And that's something that I would love to see, but I am a lot higher on Trey Lance than most, so maybe that deal is a little less realistic. But yeah, thank you so much for joining the flock over there on Patreon, my man. I really hope that this helped you out in the slightest. And of course, if you have any more questions, shoot me a DM any time of the day, and I'll be there to answer. Okay, now let's bring up our second team here in Naptown Fuzz. Okay, so this is going to be a completely different format, and that's what's exciting about this video, and that's what's exciting if you're over there on Patreon and you just get the 3 to 4 to 5 additional podcasts every single day to get to hear how different league formats change how you should be constructing your roster. But here, this is going to be a super flex half point per carry league. Okay, so this is going to change literally everything. Now, I don't know how many people watching this video right now have played in a points per carry league, but historically, at least when I've played in a points per carry league, you're signing up to play in a 0.2 points per carry league, a 0.25 points per carry league, and if you're very, very, very crazy, a 0.33 points per carry league. And that's the most I have ever played in points per carry, because once you get up to that range, I mean, literally, almost no other position matters outside of running back. I mean, if you have a running back that is seeing just say 300 carries and it's a 0.5 points per carry, I mean, do the simple math here. If a running back sees 300 carries in a season, if you have a Derrick Henry, all of a sudden, not only are you getting points for his yards, his touchdowns, his receptions, but you are also getting an additional 150 points on top of that. Now, if you equate that to yards, that's as if Derrick Henry runs for an additional 1,500 yards through the course of the season. So this skews the value towards the running backs on such a heavy degree that I almost don't care about any other position. To go along with this, how this is going to have an impact with the quarterback position is it's going to be the exact opposite of what we talked about in the last team. That was a 6-point passing touchdown, where there we wanted the pocket passer. We wanted the Matthew Stafford, and we were willing to go through and actually fade someone like Trey Lance, given the fact that his rushing wasn't going to be at that much of a premium. But no, here it's the exact opposite. Obviously, in a 4-point passing touchdown league, there you really want to go after those rushing quarterbacks. But all of a sudden, when you throw on 0.5 points per carry, that is going to make a drastic difference. Because say you see a Lamar Jackson go out and in a game, he rushes 15 times. All of a sudden, I mean, let's call it 16 times just for easy math. All of a sudden, the 16 rushes from Lamar Jackson in a single game, not to even account for his rushing yards or his rushing touchdowns, equate to 8 fantasy points. And that is equivalent to 2 passing touchdowns. So you are getting an additional 2 passing touchdowns per game from your quarterback whenever he hits that mark. So this skews so heavily to not only running backs, but to also those rushing quarterbacks. So we pull up this team right now, and at quarterback, you have some players that I like, but I am looking to sell in this format. A guy like a Matthew Stafford, a guy like a Justin Herbert. I mean, we were just talking about how we loved Matthew Stafford in the last format, but here, there's no reason to go out there and roster him. I mean, if you could trade Matthew Stafford and a piece to go get someone like a Trey Lance, that's something we are doing every single day of the week. And here with the Justin Herbert, my first move I'm going to be looking to make is I'm going to be trying to take Justin Herbert, add on a bench wide receiver, and try to go get a Lamar Jackson. Try to go get a Kyler Murray, a Josh Allen, even a guy like, just say, Trey Lance. Even if you can't pull that off, I think eventually you'll be able to go down the ladder until you finally reach one of those rushing quarterbacks, and they are going to be just vastly outscoring even a much better real-life NFL quarterback in a Justin Herbert. So please understand your league format here. I mean, we go through your quarterback position, in my opinion, needs to be completely overhauled to go and skew a little bit more towards those rushing guys, a Jalen Hurts, a Trey Lance, a Lamar, a Kyler Murray. And we've talked about it time and time again. Now we go to the running back position. Here you have both DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley. So I'll say Swift gets a little bit of a downgrade here because with DeAndre Swift, one of the things that makes him so valuable in fantasy is the fact that he is going to be getting a ton of receptions. And if you're not playing in a points per carry league, we know how impactful receptions are for the running back position. But here, more so, I am just looking for raw touches. I am just looking for as many touches in a backfield that we can get at the running back position. So I think for that reason, if you can pivot over from a DeAndre Swift to a guy like Najee Harris, who may not necessarily have the same reception volume, but should crush him in carries, that's something that I'm looking to do. Saquon Barkley, a perfect guy to have. And here in your flex spot, you do have a running back in Leonard Fournette, and I want to make sure that you have a running back in your flex spot every single week. Now going down to the bench, you have James Robinson. James Robinson, someone I've clowned on time and time again because Travis Etienne is going to be getting every target out of that backfield. But here, you're looking at a James Robinson as a much more valuable asset in that those raw touches are way more important. Those touches between the 20s in a points per carry league are actually worth something. A.J. Dillon, literally the perfect running back to have in this format, as that handcuff that if something happened to Aaron Jones, all of a sudden he is a league-winning player in a points per carry league. Now we go to wide receiver, and this is another spot where we need to be making moves because you have DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson in your starting lineup, which, yes, they are studs at the wide receiver position. Going down to the bench, you have DJ Chark and T. Higgins. And simply put, I mean, Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf have too much value in Dynasty for me to be rostering in a points per carry league. Even if you have to take a significant loss in trading these players away, even if you're trading away a Justin Jefferson and you're getting a Javonte Williams plus a piece back, I am fine with that because I understand on paper, or if you go to Twitter or you go to your fantasy football group chat, or you just ask the people in the Flock Patreon chat who wins that trade, everybody's going to be laughing at you. Everybody's going to be going Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson. But you need to be skewing it to your own league format. So ignore the quote-unquote haters and more so just go get the points. So here, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, they're going to be players I'm looking to trade away to make sure that you have an additional running back to DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley that are going to be in that same caliber player that you can play in your flex spot every week. Now down there at tight end, tight ends are going to be very, very inexpensive in this format. They should be, given the fact that the overall output for your starting lineup is going to be such a small percentage coming from the tight end position where I don't have to really worry about this at all. Right now, you have Evan Ingram in your starting lineup. Going down to your bench, you have someone, I don't even see someone outside of OJ Howard. So essentially, you only have Evan Ingram at tight end, but I'm fine with that. I don't care. I mean, if you're taking an L at tight end every single week, yet you're crushing someone in the flex spot, if you have a workhorse running back, you're completely fine. Don't worry about it. So essentially, this team is a great team. I think that there are a lot of moves to be made because you have a ton of dynasty value on this team, but I think we need to be skewing it to rushing quarterbacks. We need to be skewing it to running backs that are just going to get touches. It doesn't really matter where those touches come from, as it really would in a regular fantasy football format. And we need to be transitioning some of this wide receiver value that you currently have in a DK Metcalf and a Justin Jefferson to try to get an upgrade at running back. I mean, if you could go through, you could possibly package together DK Metcalf and DeAndre Swift and get CMC and a downgrade at wide receiver. That's something I'm looking to do every single time, given the fact that the points per carry will be so valuable. Okay, so I know we said we were going to be doing a third team, but it looks like we are running out of time here. I should have known that it was going to take this long. But like I said, we do this every single day over there on Patreon, multiple times a day. So, of course, if you want to support the show, you know where to find that link. I can break down your team. You can listen to me break down more teams every single day. And yeah, that should be it. I hope to see y'all at the Flock meetup June 19th at 6 p.m. in Austin, Texas. Of course, if you have any questions, shoot it to me on Twitter, Discord, Patreon, doesn't matter what, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for everybody supporting the show. In John, Raymond, Jordan, Andrew, Walter, Dwayne, Evan, Eamon, Q, and Use the Nerd. Thank you guys.